It is clear that Israelis need to take stock of the situation and ask, must we change course? At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel.
That was Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer urging America's best ally in the Middle East, Israel, to get rid of Prime Minister Netanyahu as it fights to defend itself against brutal Hamas terrorists. And Joe Biden, afterwards, when asked about it, said he supports his remarks. Well, our next guest calls these comments out of line. His name is GOP Congressman Byron Donalds, a supporter of Israel as well. Byron, Congressman, thanks for being here. What do you make of this? I mean, it was staggering to see Schumer go to the floor, say what he said, and then for Biden to back him up.
Good to be with you this morning. Look, out of line is just the start of what I think. You have the Senate Majority Leader trying to interfere in the election process and destabilize the country of our ally Israel. I mean, what the heck is going on? That's not his job. His job is to make sure that we actually find a way to help fund Israel, not stand as an obstacle to Israel doing what they need to do, which is in their national interest, which is to obliterate Hamas. This is the same Chuck Schumer who goes around whining and crying about the Russians and everybody else involved in themselves in our elections. And let's be clear, I don't want other countries involved in our election process. It should be decided by Americans and Americans alone. But he has no problem going to the Senate floor to talk about what's going on with Bibi Netanyahu and the current government of Israel. But this is indicative of a broader point. The Democrat Party supports Hamas. They do not want to see an end to Hamas. They are more concerned about Israel removing Hamas from Gaza than actually supporting Israel in that position. They would prefer to have a deal with the Iranians. They would prefer to let the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas continue to operate regardless of the security threat to Israel.
Yeah, I mean, this is the leader of the Senate also browbeating the Israelis, saying you need a two-state solution. This is something you're hearing for the administration as well. Wouldn't it be the Israelis and the voters there that would decide what leaders they want and what kind of outcome they want? Because the idea of two states hasn't worked very well.
Of course, and let's be very clear. Gaza essentially was a mini two-state solution. They voted for Hamas almost 15 years ago. Hamas has been running the place. They've been stealing the humanitarian aid that the United States, the UN, and everybody else has been sending over there. They've built military tunnels. They've embedded weapons amongst civilians, amongst children. So this has not been an experiment that has worked for Israel. Let's be clear. In my view, the only thing that's going to matter when it comes to peace in the Middle East is what President Trump was doing with the Abraham Accords, where he had Israel and other Arab nations finding peace agreements and then finding ways to deal with each other in economics and in trade. That was actually creating peace. Empowering Iran the way the Biden administration has done, similar to what the Obama administration was doing, has been a disaster for Israel, and it's been a disaster for the Middle East.
It's been upside down, no doubt. By the way, we're going to have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on our program live today at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time to respond. Congressman, I want to get your thoughts on one more thing, because the House Oversight Committee says it's going to proceed with this week's hearing with or without Hunter Biden. Here's the letter from the chairman, James Comer, to Hunter Biden's attorney saying, hey, we want you to publicly testify. It says a few months ago, Hunter Biden demanded a public hearing where he would answer questions in front of the American people. After facing questions during a private deposition, Mr. Biden decided to reverse his position. The committee will proceed forward with or without Hunter to show publicly how the Biden brand was sold for so many years in Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Romania, and China, and to explain Joe's involvement in those lucrative transactions. Sounds like Tony Bobulinski, Devin Archer, and another associate will testify, but Hunter won't. What do you make of this?
Well, look, I'm not surprised. Hunter Biden has been trying to make a mockery of what we've been doing in the Oversight Committee this entire time. That's why when he had to do his original deposition, he went to the Senate side and gave a mini press conference, which was stupid and dumb. It's the reason why now that he has an opportunity to come and testify, he doesn't want to do it. And let me be clear. The reason why he doesn't want to testify with Mr. Bobulinski and Mr. Archer at the table is because they would refute a lot of the things that he said in his deposition behind closed doors to members of of the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee. We can clearly see that Hunter Biden was the bag man, that he did take money from CEFC, that he did text the chairman, Chairman Zhao, sitting next to his father, because pictures actually place him at the Biden beach house in Delaware on the days of those pictures. And we can also demonstrate that money flowed to his accounts that he controlled, to family members of the Biden, and also to Joe Biden. He doesn't want to talk about that. He wants to say that, oh, maybe he was on drugs. And that might be the case, but the financial records and the text messages actually paint a completely different story. He doesn't want to have to be refuted next to former business associates, so that's why he's going to run and hide. America, the man has not been telling the truth the entire time.
There's no way he would do that. It would make for the right kind of questioning you need to get to the bottom of it, which is exactly why he won't show up. Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you very much.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.